if you haven't ever taken part in Becca's Life Hacks before, let me tell you a little bit about what's going to be going on. So we're going to be answering royal we, that'll be me, answering questions using my intuition about things that you've got going on in your life. It's life hacks. So this doesn't take the place of a bigger conversation that would take place in a one-to-one consultation. It's really about getting tips and bits and pieces of insights. To me, an insight, just one insight, one simple insight into an issue that you've got going on in your life can literally be life-changing. And often by listening to Becky's Life Hacks, and you don't even have to take part, but quite often by listening to the questions that other people have asked, you go, oh my God, that completely applies to me. I can take that piece of information and apply it to my own life. Brilliant stuff. So, so if you're watching the replay of this, that's going to be going up on YouTube and you missed the live event, there's a lot that you can actually get out of it. So I have had this said to me so many times when I've been agony aunting on radio shows where people say, it felt like you were talking to me directly. And this is now the 4th time we've done Becky's Life Hacks. And this has been something that's been said over and over again, is you were giving advice to one person, but I really felt like it was like you were talking to me personally and it was applying to me. So when you are posting a question and when you put up your hand and when you come on the call, you're not just getting help for yourself. You are helping me come out with stuff that's going to help other people. And not only that, there's something pretty great to find out that you're not alone with whatever it is that you're struggling with. It's really nice to go, I'm not alone in my own goldfish bowl just trying to solve this particular thing. There are other people going through the same things that I'm going through too, which brings you to feel a bit warm and fuzzy on a wintry kind of evening and stuff. Brilliant. So we've got a few of us still gathering into the room, so that's really ace. But if we can, Catster, because Kat reads the questions out, because it's really hard for me to keep an eye on what's going on in the chat room as well as answering the questions, and that would just make for something really boring, because I'd be like, that's my concentration face. What does that say? So Kat is the quiz master. She reads out the questions for me to answer them. So but it's really good if you can actually come on and do a live little chat with me as well, which would be ace. You just need to put in a request. So Kat, have we got anything? I know that we had one email ahead of time, so let's get started.
Okay. So you'd like to comment?
Oh, you went a little bit squishy then. What did you say? Sorry.
we should start with the email.
I'm going to turn you down because you might be feeding back over my computer, so we'll see if that works.
Is that better?
I think so.
Oh, good. I'll continue, and hopefully it'll get better as we go along. I'll do it in my posh voice, which always sounds better anyway. So we have an email which says, "Hi, Becky. My life is at a bit of a standstill at present. I'm not sure how to proceed forward in all aspects of my life. I feel I need to have a purpose in life, and at the moment I don't have one. I've just lost my mother after a very short illness, so I'm coming to terms with that. I raised my family alone, and they are all well up and running. I have waited a long time to meet the right person, but at present I'm still alone. I'd be grateful for any advice that you may give me."
Okay, what was the lady's name? I missed that. Mary?
Yes, Mary. With a smiley face.
Well, that's good. I think we all go through times in life where we feel like we've gone into winter. So, what was really important about what you said there is about like having a purpose. But actually, sometimes the purpose is to grieve, is to be a little sad and to mourn a loss. And that might seem like kind of like, oh, well, I don't really want that to be my purpose. I want my purpose to kind of pull my britches up and just carry on. But it's a little bit like if a tree, is saying, oh, I'm losing all of my leaves and everything just feels wrong. And, or I just can't lose my leaves. I can't become sticks. I think in our society, we're always pushing for purpose and things to do. And yet, the earth goes into winter times, And I think we as people go into winter times, but we have this idea that we're supposed to be productive and in spring and summer all of the time. And I don't know if that's completely possible. And I think that when there's been a significant loss, especially when it was a shock, so having lost your mum after quite a short illness, it's a shock. It's a real shock to the system. It takes time. It takes time to not only just process the grief of losing someone, but process the fact that, you know, the role that that person played in your life, you haven't got someone playing that role anymore, and what impact that has on you and how that makes you feel. And I think it's a lot to ask to have that sort of like, I now need a purpose, when the purpose can be just healing and can be going through a winter period, because the earth isn't just sitting there doing nothing when it's in winter. It's giving nutrients to seeds. You know, it's kind of like what would be the word? It's composting. It's probably composting leaves, but ultimately it's taking situations and in a sense reflecting upon them. And sometimes we need to reflect upon our life before we can move forward. And in part of that reflection, it brings me to what you were saying about having been alone, and now you're kind of ready, you know, if the kids are of an age where they don't need you anymore, you're kind of ready to sort of like meet someone else and be in a relationship and have all of that kind of stuff as well. But part of this reflection is becoming really clear on what that looks like. You know, because we tend to sort of like think, you know, I want to be in a loving relationship, but we don't always think exactly what does that look like for me. You know, we think all relationships are the same. You meet someone, you make a connection, you decide to live together. But is that what you want? Because my feeling is that what you really, really want in your life is to find someone that you can play with like a puppy. Talking of a puppy, mine's just down there on the floor. Some of you have heard her snoring before. I might introduce you to her later. She's in the middle of chewing. You know, it's that playfulness, like two puppies together, like chewing each other's ears and messing around and having fun and rolling on the floor. And, well, I'm getting a little rude now. So I think what you're really looking for in a relationship is not just the companionship and someone to go on holiday with or someone to share the mortgage with, but someone to actually bring out the lightness in your being, because that's the thing that you're missing most. And I'm not saying you're miserable, and you know, but what I mean by the lightness in your being is that's your natural self. You're normally like that. You're a very light, fun human being. And sometimes it's hard to, you know, when we haven't got someone to bounce off, sometimes your humor gets lost. I mean, you know, it's a little bit like that, you know, if a tree falls over in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. It's a little bit like if a comedian's alone in a room talking to themselves and no one's around to laugh, are they still funny? You know, and I think that lightness of being only really comes out in reflection to another human being. And so it's slightly yourself that you're missing. You're missing yourself when you're in the company of somebody who allows you to be vibrant. So when we go into a self-inquiry that is needed before we go into a relationship, understanding what makes you feel alive means that you bring your aliveness into a relationship. So that winter period where you're actually spending some time being reflective is actually really important, because by doing that, you learn more about who you are and what lights you up. And then from that lit up place, you're easier to be seen, so that someone can fall in love with you because they can see you, instead of feeling I'm in darkness and I can only step into my light when my light is reflected in someone else's eyes. Sometimes we actually just have to have that light generated by ourselves to be noticed, a bit like, you know, sending out your lighthouse beam. So that reflection time is really useful for working out what is it that lights me up without it needing to be another human being. So I hope that helps, Mary. So if you're on the call, then give us a little message and let me know. That'd be lovely. Over to you, Kat.
Okay, we've got a question in from Nikki on the chat. Hi, Becky. Any advice in learning to trust a new relationship? Very different personalities. He thinks I'm prim and proper, and he's a builder that forgets that I'm not.
He's a builder, then, I think. So he's a builder and he thinks that you're prim and proper. Oh, Kat's just muted herself. I'm going to just read that again. So, prim and proper, and he's a builder that forgets that I'm not. That's hilarious. It's always to do with like comparisons, isn't it? Sort of like somebody who thinks that you're dead posh and then somebody else who thinks that you're not. It's like, oh, come on. It's really funny how these things kind of work out. I often told that I give great middle class perception, give the perception of something. It's really funny, you know. If you'd have heard me growing up, I've had so many different accents, from broad northern Yorkshire kind of accent right the way to Somerset. So I've had quite a few different accents. It's always about how you kind of like come across with your voice. I actually did I've put it on my Facebook page literally this week. So if you want to go and have a little look, I put up a YouTube film that I made about controlling anxiety in relationships. So if you go to, I think it's on Facebook, it's Becky Walsh Stand Up Intuitive, I think is the Facebook thing. But if you just put in Becky Walsh, then you find my page on Facebook and you'll see that video there. So what happens in the early stages of a relationship is we get like an oxytocin rush. It's an addictive chemical, oxytocin. It's also known as the love hormone. And what happens in the new stages of a relationship is that Mother Nature kind of fills you with this hormone. It's also the hormone that we describe as being the baby brain, because when you're pregnant and when you've had a new baby, it kind of like, it's the thing that keeps you in love with the baby and wanted to throttle it at 3 a.m. So it's a very good hormone to have. But in the first early stages of a relationship, when we're swimming with oxytocin, it can be like when we're away from someone, we can have real withdrawal symptoms, which is why if a relationship breaks up in the early stages, it can be more heartbreaking than a relationship that's broken up after years, because we've got these hormonal chemicals. But these chemicals also kind of cause an anxiety. So it's a little bit like giving up crack, you know, there's this sort of addiction to it. So if somebody's reactions towards us are a little hot and cold, the oxytocin makes us kind of be craving that person, and then we fear losing them. Now, interestingly, what happens after a period of time, if, you know, Mother Nature tends to go, well, you know, you must be firing blanks because you haven't got knocked up yet. So takes away the oxytocin, because the oxytocin is Mother Nature's way of trying to get you pregnant, really. And then after a period of time of being with the same partner, the oxytocin goes. And I think that this is cleverly why people say that you have to get married before you start having sex. Because once you start having sex, you know, that's when the oxytocin's there. But, you know, once that period of time of having sex with a new partner, Mother Nature just takes the oxytocin away. And then, of course, by then you're like, oh, he's had his hair cut. I don't think I fancy anymore. If you've never done that, then you know, that kind of like, oh, something really trivial has suddenly completely put you off this person that you were like, I've never felt like this about anyone before. He's completely amazing. And then suddenly I'm like, yeah, no. It's always good to ask your friends, because they always say, yeah, you said that last time. And that's kind of what the oxytocin chemical kind of causes you to do. So it's a really unstable time, and I think the best thing that you can do is to learn your own to learn how to manage your own anxiety with these chemical kind of crazy sort of feelings that kind of come up with oxytocin. It's just to really know your own value, because when you really value yourself, because it's really a lack of value sometimes that makes us get into these crazy states when they don't message you. Like they always text you every day, and then suddenly one day they don't text you, or even not the whole day, it's just been 5 hours and they haven't texted you, and you're suddenly going, you know, what did I say? You know, what didn't I say? What happened last night? Have they met someone else? And, you know, you start to sound like Dorothy Parker. If you've never read, there's a brilliant story by Dorothy Parker, who's a poet, deceased now, called The Telephone Call. And in it, it's just a long monologue about that feeling of waiting for someone to call you. Now, this is in the days before mobile phones when she wrote this. And it starts off with, "Dear God, let him call me now. Please, God, let him call me now. I won't ask anything else of you. Truly, I won't. Only God. please let him call me now. And then it goes on to say, maybe he's had a car accident and that's why he hasn't called me. He said, I'll call you at 5. And he said, darling. That's when he called me darling. He said, darling, I'll call you at 5. It's 7:10. He hasn't called. Maybe he's been killed. Maybe there's been a terrible car accident. Oh, what a lovely thought. What a terrible thought. Anyway, I'm kind of starting to recite. You can tell how many times I have read this piece. And it's because it's so true to that incredibly weird feeling that we go through. But if you value yourself, there comes in a conscious switch where you just go, do you know what? If he cannot see how amazing I am, if he doesn't get that I'm brilliant, if he doesn't think that I'm the right woman for him, well, tootle on. I don't care. Even with that oxytocin thing, you can still get to a point where you just think to yourself, I am of great value. I am a bloody brilliant human being. You know what? If he can't see it, then I don't want to go out with a blind idiot anyway. And even if you can't bring yourself to see that, because the oxytocin is saying, but he's the best blind idiot you've ever met in your entire life. The minute we start valuing ourselves means we don't put up with being dicked about by anybody. Now, I don't think that this guy is dicking you about, if I'm honest. I just feel intuitively, I don't think his self-esteem's that high. And it's not just because he was saying, you know, that you're the posh bird and he's the builder. I just think that sometimes when we don't have great self-esteem ourselves, the protection mechanism when we meet someone that we really like is to act like we don't really like them. I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? So just bear that in mind, that our perception might be that they're a strong, powerful, incredible human being, but actually the reality might be shivering chihuahua in an oversized jumper. It's a good image. So I think just keep that in mind, because I think that sometimes we can get carried away with, do they like me? You know, instead of thinking, do I actually like them, and actually what is going on with them? So it's a bit of reversal of looking at that. Let me know if that's been helpful to you. I'd like to know. Thank you.
I'm going to
I keep dropping you in it, don't I? I'm just stopping talking. You're like, oh!
Right, I'm going to keep my video off just for the moment. So, we've got a question from Astrid in the chat.
Yeah.
So she has a question about her parents who have been together for 23 years of marriage. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, you're breaking up quite a bit. Shall I just
Mum can't stand my dad and rejects him badly. On the other hand, my dad wants to leave her, but he is afraid. He's 75. My mother is a very negative person, and for her, she is a victim. And then she also follows on with, I do not know if I should tell them something or leave them to lead themselves. I do not live in the same city.
Oh, I think it's very difficult when it comes to parents and things like that. Oh, it's family dynamics, kind of scary. You know, I think that women have a rule of thumb, which is, I don't know why we do this, but if a woman tells another woman that the guy that she is with is no good for whatever reason, the woman will always reject that. Just go, meh, oh, well, maybe you're jealous, or it's this or that or something. And so there's a rule of thumb that we have as women where we don't end up saying what we want to say for the protection of the friendship. I don't know why we do that. I think it's also the same crazy reason why a guy, you know, who's cheating, everyone who knows the guy's cheating never actually ends up telling the wife. We have some strange cultural weirdness around that, you know. But the few times that I've said, look, you know, somebody needs to know about this, or a friend needs to know, it always ends up going badly on the person who says it. Now, when it comes to family dynamics, I think that you've got to really take this on board, because if you are the one that actually steps in and says, hey, you guys, you really need to go your separate ways, and, you know, I'm going to tell you I'm your child, but actually I'm becoming your parent. Because at some point, We always become our parents' parent. It's strange, but we always end up being our parents' parent. So do you start parenting them, or do you just let them get on with it? A very interesting thing about older relationships, when I say older relationships, but people that have been together a really, really long time, sometimes what actually makes the relationship work is the fact that they are argumentative with each other, have a go at each other, and they're cruel to each other. And if they actually split up, they end up being more miserable. Because when they were in the relationship, even though it wasn't working, in terms of it wasn't a loving relationship, there's some kind of enjoyment of the banter of having a go at each other all of the time. And when that person isn't there and they're on their own, they've only got themselves to criticise or to use as the reason why their life isn't better. Sometimes people use their partner as a wonderful excuse for not actually living the life that they want to live, because they're scared of living the life that they want to live. So they say, oh, if it wasn't for your father, I could be doing this, that and the other. But actually the truth of it is they never really wanted to do this, that and the other. And they've always used, being in the relationship as an excuse. And once those excuses are gone, once the excuse isn't there anymore, life can suddenly become very terrifying, because you're suddenly confronted with, I have X amount of years ahead of me, and what am I going to do? Like, what is my purpose? How do I want to fulfill these things? So what looks like it needs to end on the outside, sometimes on the inside doesn't need to end, and we have to be just, oh, there's my dog. She's just in the background there. There she is. And we just have to be really aware of that's something that we can end up doing, and we've got to be careful of it. There was another point I was going to make, and I've lost it because I was thinking about the dog. It'll come back. So I think in regards to this, just be really, really careful, because when people are alone and they have sort of split up, at a certain point in life, you've got to kind of think about the years that you've got left. Now, when you're younger and you're in a bad relationship, you can go, okay, well, I'm going to walk out of this relationship and I'm going to meet somebody else. When you're older, it's, I'm going to walk out of this relationship and I'm going to be alone. And sometimes it's easier to be with somebody who you nag the crap out of, who nags the crap out of you, than it is to be alone. And all of these things need considering, because we look at relationships with the eyes of a young person. You don't see the same things as someone who's older. And I'm very mindful of this when I've got clients. So an older client of mine, she won't mind saying this because she's not with us anymore. She wouldn't mind anyway. She wouldn't mind me using her experience as a teaching tool. But she was in a relationship with a guy who just never took her out to dinner, never put her first, never really included her in his life, really. But she would rather take, in a sense, what you might call the scraps of what he could offer her than not have him in her life in any form. And if I was having this conversation with a younger person, I'd be like, get rid, he's not properly prioritising you, this is really rubbish, he's just, what's this, a booty call, are you crazy? But when those short interactions lights up that person's life, then how could you possibly take that away? Because it's a value, even if it isn't perhaps as regularly as the person would like it to be. Hope that makes sense. I'm sure you'll tell me.
Okay, so next up we have Patricia's put an interesting question into the chat. So she is wondering how she comes across to people. Now there's a vague question for you.
That's a difficult one, isn't it? I'd probably have to kind of sit in front of you and kind of put this out there. So I just need to kind of tune in a little bit more. If you ever try to listen to yourself singing, you sing more quietly, which is very difficult, because if you're listening to yourself singing and you sing more quietly to hear yourself, then you're not going to hear yourself very well because you're going full out. So when you're analysing yourself around people, then you're not being yourself, because you're analysing yourself acting like yourself. And that can be a thing. So, Patricia, I think it's a difficult one to kind of ask when you're not on the video and I'm not speaking to you, because I can't get like a real sense of you. But what I do get a sense of is if you're coming, just the sheer thought process behind the question means that I think you're listening to yourself singing. So in other words, when you're in the company of other people, you're being self-conscious. And when you're being self-conscious, you're not being yourself. And that always comes across as being slightly strange. So some people are more comfortable, like I'm more comfortable in front of an audience full of people than I am one-to-one. I'm really absolutely rubbish at small talk, and I will act like a quirky oddball to try and get a conversation into something that's a little bit more meaningful, because I just don't know. I'm just not great with it. I find it really weird. So I think that sometimes when we're acting like that, it always makes people kind of like go, it can make other people feel uncomfortable in our presence because of the amount of I don't know, attention and energy that we're putting in into our communication, then makes it staccato. It makes it come across as being a little stubborn in that way. So I kind of hope that helps, but it might be something that you actually want to book a proper appointment with me for, so we can actually look at it in depthly. Up to you.
Brilliant. So next up, we've actually, Nikki's come back a little bit on the builder story, but we might come back to that one a bit later on if that's okay. Because there's a question here from Lucy, which is that she's picking up on what we're saying and a fear of living the life that we want to live. So how do we get beyond the fear and stop self-sabotaging?
Well, firstly, you never get beyond the fear. Sorry. And understanding that stops you self-sabotaging, interestingly enough. Because when you believe that you need to not have the fear, that's, it's almost impossible, because anything of any value, anything that you love or you really care about, you're going to be scared of. You're going to have fear around it because it matters, and that's important. So if something matters, then you're going to have fear around it. So I think the thing to do really is to kind of understand that everything that is important has fear, and sometimes to chase the fear. And the sabotaging is a completely different thing, because, the sabotage can be for a number of different reasons. So, like, for example, we think of procrastination as being sabotage, but sometimes procrastination is just our way of kind of saying you're ill prepared, you're not quite ready yet, you haven't got it figured out, you're in a holding pattern while you're waiting for more information. Here comes the dog. So by kind of like thinking that you're in a holding pattern while you're waiting for more information, that can mean that you're kind of like feeling, okay, I need to take some stock here, I need to think about whether or not this is completely right for me. Other sabotage, which might be, for example, getting drunk before a job interview, that would be a colossal piece of sabotage, or not going to bed early before a really important day. So it depends what your pattern is of sabotage, because people have different patterns of sabotage. And I think when you feel that you have found something that really floats your boat, that you're really excited about, sometimes the passion for something overrides the fear of it. And sometimes the passion for something can override you stopping yourself getting there. And I think it's important to just not dwell on what holds you back, thinking that you'll fix it, but actually to go, okay, I'm aware that I do this, and I'm aware that I have this pattern, and I'm aware that that holds me back, but I'm going to get on and do it anyway, despite the fact that, because the more time you spend trying to fix the things that you think holds you back, the more you're holding yourself back twice as much. Kat, you're really good with stuff like this. Do you want to piggyback on and answer that question yourself? Do you mind?
No, not at all. I think, my great belief with all of this is that we're actually creating the future that we want to see by the actions that we put into life. So you're absolutely right when you say that we never actually get over fear. I think there just has to be a moment where, like Elizabeth Gilbert said in her miracle book, what was it, Big Magic, I think, where you just have to stand and put your hand on your heart and talk to your fear and go, I know that you are here to try and keep me safe, but I am going to do this anyway. This is what I really want to do. And you really have to push through the fear to get yourself into an alignment where the universe can create more opportunities for you. But you sort of have to take the action to prove to yourself and to create your own, willpower muscles that this is actually what you want to see, and keep moving towards it. And every step that you take towards something builds those willpower muscles. You feel more courageous with every step, and suddenly you end up looking backwards and thinking, well, what on earth was I worried about? Because you've actually moved in the right direction. So I do agree that we never actually get over fear. And once you actually move into a situation of feeling you've got to fix something, you end up in a spiral of never actually doing anything at all. So you never actually move yourself into alignment with living the life that you want to do, which is what Lucy was talking about.
Absolutely, because you're never going to get fixed. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody here. You're never going to get fixed. You're always going to find something about yourself that you could improve on. You are always going to be a work in progress. You are never going to feel ready for any great undertaking or even a small undertaking. I didn't feel ready for this just tonight. You don't feel ready for stuff. You never get to a point where you feel like you've got enough ducks, or whether or not they're in a row, or whether or not, I'm never, just whatever. You never get there. So the trick is feeling so passionate about something that it overrides anything else that you're worrying about. Just, that's it. It really is that. And I just want to plug Kat a bit, because Kat is really, really good at helping people with this stuff, and she's got a really good Facebook page. She's been putting up loads of really great helpful tips and things, and her website is Action Alchemy, and her stuff is really, really good. Whereas she can really guide people who are procrastinating, or who has all of those kinds of feelings, to kind of get their stuff together and get it out there, and to attach to that stuff. Don't you? Yes, you do.
I do. Thank you very much, Becky. That's very gracious of you. Thank you.
So the Facebook page is Cat Knot, or is it Action Alchemy? I can't remember.
Cat Knot, Action Alchemy. So if you just search on Cat Knot, you'll find it.
Yeah. So if you want to go and like her page, and then you can actually get sort of a lot of inspiration off there that's just going to pop up on your page on Facebook. Absolutely. If you're into that kind of Facebooky typey thing.
Absolutely. Can I jump in with a question here, Becky?
Yeah.
Because the reason I'm asking this is we've actually got 17 people live on the chat, and there's not many people actually really jumping on with questions tonight, which is really unusual. We usually slammed out with questions. So what I'd like to know is, for all of those people who are listening in and watching, how do you know what the right question is to ask? Because in a situation like this, it's really difficult to know what the question is.
Yeah, it is difficult to know what the question is, and also because it's kind of like a public forum and a public answer, so you sometimes want to make it really vague, and then think, oh, how vague is too vague, and and I think it's really about if you think about the result more than the question. What do you want to feel that you're not feeling in your life at the moment? So that sounds like a strange thing to say, but I really believe that just one insight into something can change your whole life. And it's what I call idea sex. Bear with me. So idea sex is, and I know you've had idea sex, it's when you are reading a book, and I've just started wearing reading glasses. So when you're reading a book and you read something that is so profound that you just take your glasses off and you go, oh my God, that is brilliant. And when we were talking about oxytocin, you're actually having a rush of oxytocin to the brain when you are told something that is so insightful, it creates a light bulb moment. So if there's something in your life that you are thinking, I would just love to wake up in the morning and feel like this, or I would just love to know that I am safe with this particular issue, or I would love to know that this thing that I've been really bogged down by and worried about, how to move through it and how to get to the other side of it. So I guess really, if you think about what it is that you want to feel, and then think about what you believe stops you from feeling that, then you've got your question. And then throw it to me, and then hopefully I'll be able to give you that one insight, that one intuitive hit that makes you just go, boom, facepalm. Oh my God, that's exactly what I need to do. And not every insight that I'm going to give you is going to be a mindgasm. Some of them will be, not every insight. Sometimes you just hear something and you go, I knew that. I already knew that. Why wasn't I doing that? I knew that. And so sometimes actually having like your own belief echoed by somebody else can be just as big a breakthrough, because you go, yes, I knew I was right. So if there's something that you've been thinking with your own intuition, but you didn't know if you were right or not, that's another good question to ask me. So there's quite a few there.
And actually, I'll just chime in here with one of those sort of moments that you did for me some time ago.
Oh God, what was that?
No, it was good. It was a good one. It wasn't one of the actual slap myself in the face moments, but it was, we were talking about me getting more in alignment with the new work that I wanted to do and move away from the traditional way that I'd been earning money. And you actually just sat across and you talked to me for quite some time, but then you just said, you've just got to find out what you're angry about. And that little tiny thing was the thing that actually just made it just went, brrr, okay, get it. Oh God, get it. And it kind of propagated on from that point. So I know exactly what you're talking about, of these like instant things, but it's, I would never have known to ask that question, which is why, it's really interesting to just throw out a situation that you're in and not have to worry about a specific question, because sometimes, your great gift is just knowing the right thing to drop in like a pebble in the pond that's just going to ripple out and make a massive difference. And I think you're going to make a massive difference here to Leslie as well, because Leslie has put a statement up that said she would only want to ask a question which is of value to others. So I think you could go quite away with that.
That's great. Well, I just wanted to caveat about that thing about that I was saying about what makes you angry, because most people talk about what makes you passionate. And so to kind of like piggyback on you and Leslie, thanks Leslie, to piggyback on both of you, it's like, we keep chasing what makes us happy, and we keep chasing what's going to make us feel fulfilled and happy. And so we're looking for things that we enjoy. And I don't know about you, but I'll pretty much get bored with whatever it is that makes me happy and want to move on. But the thing that really drives me, and this is what we were kind of like talking about was with the change of Kat's work, was sort of like looking at what makes you angry in the world, like what makes you passionate, what makes you want to, wave flags, stand on buildings, what makes you really go, I want to do something about that. So I've got a really good friend of mine, Natalie Fee. She's a little bit of a Bristol celebrity, is Miss Fee. And she is really passionate about plastic in the ocean. And she does this thing called City to Sea. And her big thing at the moment, or she's got lots of big things, but it's about switching the stick. So the stick that you clean your ears out with. People throw these things into the toilet. And of course, they end up in the ocean because, if you get them at the right angle, they go through all of the water filters and just go straight out into the sea. And then they get eaten by the birds and the marine life. And we've got more plastic in the ocean. And don't get me started on microbeads. Bad. And she's started up another campaign where it's turning, where you can go and refill your bottle in any of the shops. So there's a little sticker in the window that says you can refill your bottles here, so that you're not buying plastic bottles of water while you're out when you get thirsty. So she's really angry because she loves the sea and she likes surfing and doing all sorts of outside in the water stuff, and she got really angry about the state of the ocean, and and the albatross with the plastic and the awful things that it's eating and then can't fly. And I don't mean to depress everyone with all of this, but she got really angry about that, and so she created a movement off the back of it. For me, there's things about humanity that gets my goat. That's why I do the work. Most of us think, if you want to be in what you call the healing arts and helping people and changing lives, that you want to do it because you love human beings. Well, actually, the opposite is true in my case. I want to do it because I can see human potential, and it shines so brightly. And yet the people with that potential can't see it for themselves. And it really makes me angry. Why aren't you better? Why aren't you more awesome? Why can't you see what I can see about you intuitively? Come on. And so, of course, I'm not going to kind of grab somebody by the ears and smack them about the face and head and say, grow some self-esteem, you idiot. Because that's not going to work, is it? So I think that the thing that drives you is the thing that makes you cross about people or things, and so when you're searching for your purpose isn't always going to be found in what makes you happy. It's going to be found in what makes you like yourself. And we like ourselves the most when we're doing something that we think is of value. And the only thing that we're ever going to feel is of value is by doing something about something that we don't like. How nuts is that? So finding your purpose is about finding your drivers. It's about finding the things that get you go. It's about finding the things that make you angry. It's about finding the things that you want to strive for, because you get you out of the way then. So you don't sabotage yourself. You don't go, oh, I'm really scared, so I won't do it. I'm really angry. Get out of my way. You don't feel those things. And then if somebody criticizes you or something goes wrong or you're exhausted, or it becomes your rocket fuel to keep going. It becomes the thing that keeps you going, because you go, I love myself when I'm doing this work because I know what I do is of value, which means that I believe that I am of value. And the reason why I really feel it's of value is because it really annoys me. So I don't know anyone who says this, and I don't know if it's something that I've kind of come up with, but every time I say it to people, they go, God, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because I feel like, like I love myself when I'm helping other people, but that's only really when I'm helping other people that, can't see how brilliant they are. If I'm helping kind of some narcissist, I'm not going to get the same kind of job satisfaction, just saying. So that, anyway, I feel like I've gone into waffle now, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And I think there's a great difference as well, just to continue that, if I can for a second, of finding what you're angry about and then trying to make everybody else angry until they're as angry as you, and finding your passion of what you're angry about and deciding what you can do to make that better in some way. There's a distinct difference there, isn't there, Bex?
Yeah, there really is, because one of the things that does actually really knock me about Facebook is posting up stuff that is just going to make everybody else angry. Like, here's a photograph of somebody who shot a tiger. Okay, brilliant. Do you really think for 1 minute that the person who took that photo isn't expecting that to go viral, and that they're actually really quite chuffed about that, because in their world, that's like a trophy and they do want everyone to see it. So that's not going to really do any good. All it's going to do is make me really angry about it and ruin my day. So there's a lot of stuff where it's just about, if you do something like that and I can sign a petition, or I can write a letter, or I can do something of positive use, then I don't mind seeing it because there's an action behind it. It's the same as if you were to see all of these, terrible news broadcasts of people starving in a particular country, but there was no text this number or help, here's how to help. It just makes you feel depressed. So yes, getting other people angry about something that you're angry about because it makes you feel like, I'm a really intelligent person, look how upset I get about really important stuff. That's just an kind of like tribal based angry ranty thing that actually doesn't do anything of positive value. The positive value is the key. Thanks, Kat.
You're very welcome. Edward Blake has just popped up. I just asked in the chat, what's everybody thinking about this conversation? So Edward Blake has just come up and said, couldn't agree more. My anger at the bankers and bank bailouts led me to my passion of investing and in Bitcoin.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You know, so find another way to make a better world. Yeah, completely. And also I did an interview with Ed. So if you want to have a look at that interview that I did around the, you know, he's talking about Bitcoin and was sort of like, in fact, in that interview, I've shared so much more of my political views, mindsets, conspiracies, thoughts.
Oh, I so want to hear this, Becky. I want to hear it. Where is it?
Kind of got very carried away and forgot that was going to go public. So if you have a look, I think, do you want to type it in, Ed? But I think it's Renegade Investment on YouTube. So I think that's what it is, but type it in, Ed, so everyone can see where it is. And you can go and find out about Bitcoin if you've never heard of it. And go, what is that? Because don't ask me to explain it. I can semi-explain it.
Lucy has also just said there's so many things to be angry about these days, but how to drill down on where we can be of real use.
Yeah, I think it's finding that one thing that really annoys you the most. And I talk about this an awful lot in my book, online course, The One Big Calling. If you're wondering what's happening, my dog has decided to kind of like make a mess. So yeah, the course, The One Big Calling, talks about this a lot, which is, if you think about the thing that gets you goat, and then if you imagine, so say for example, that's greed and corruption. So let's just say it's greed. If you were to think about greed and think, well, if everything is actually a call for love, because I believe everything is a call for love. If everything's a call for love, then what call for love is greed? Like, what is somebody who's greedy actually really calling for? And if you think greed is, I don't have enough, I'm lacking, so I'm just going to take more than I deserve because I really deserve it, you're really looking at somebody who believes in lack and insecurity. So if they're actually secretly really insecure and really believe in lack, then you suddenly find out that the thing that you don't like in the world is actually the complete opposite of something that actually is true of yourself. So usually people who have a deep, profound sense of personal lack and insecurity, the through line of I'm not enough, will hate people who are greedy. So it's really interesting how that comes up. And in actual fact, it's kind of like, you know, a leopard of different spots. I can't remember the saying, something like that, where, you know, the thing that you don't like in that way is actually the same insecurity, but being shown in a different way. So some people who don't believe they're worthy don't take anything. Some people who don't believe they're worthy take everything. So interestingly, it's usually the opposite horn of the same goat. I think that's the saying. I'm just going to come up with different animals, stripes, dots, goats, horns, you know, you name it. I'll eventually come up with the right analogy. It would just hit me.
Alison has said she's missed the first half hour, but she's really enjoying the conversation and it's really helpful. So that's good. Maybe we should just ramble on a bit more quite often.
Yeah, maybe that's it. We won't bother answering any questions. We'll just have a chat, you know. So
we'll just talk about answers. So actually, interestingly, Dave, who I know very well, has said, but isn't angry being a waste of energy? As the song says, let it go. And actually, I remember Elsa being quite angry at the beginning of that song before she started Let It Go. It was almost like, oh, for a moment, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, absolutely. And in actual fact, all of the ones that are sung by the same person, like, you know, because she also sings the soundtrack of Wicked as well. So all of them are angry and then I'm going to defy gravity, or angry and then I'm going to let it go. But they're all things about kind of making the world a better place, aren't they? Really, it's all Pixar kind of. And the moral of the story is, so yeah, that whole idea of it being a waste of energy. I think, you know, it's the serenity prayer. God may grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So there's some things that you get angry about that you can't do anything about. You know, you can't get angry because, I'm really angry, you know, my uncle died, you know, I'm really angry about it. Well, you can't get angry about something like that. You can't get angry about people who think, when you think that they have wronged you, you know, oh, this person has wronged me and I'm really angry about it, because it's usually your level of perception. So, you know, those things, you know, dollop of forgiveness and move on. But we're talking about passionate anger. And I think that serenity prayer, you know, the wisdom to know the difference between what you can change and what you can't change. And I think, to be honest with you, most things in life you really can change. It's, you know, you can't change people. I've tried. You know, they are who they are. You can't change the weather, but pretty much you have some kind of capacity to change something, even if it's just changing your own perception. And I think that anger is a really powerful, passionate tool. Stewing isn't. So we're not talking about the kind of anger that you stew on. We're talking about we're talking about justified, productive anger. That's what we're talking about. And I don't think it's a wasted energy if you're going to go and do something really brilliant with it. But we're looking at it in terms of what makes you like yourself and what makes you productive in that way. It's not what just makes you sad, or, you know, it's like the grumpy old men. It's not that. It's not going, meh, those young people have got their feet on the seats, meh, you know. It's not the two comedians, you know, in the Muppets that are sitting in the Royal Box going, rubbish, it's a terrible show, you know. It's that. I do think it's really interesting when people phone like and complain about something, you know, and just, you know, if you're going to complain about something, come up with what would make it better. You know, whatever it is that you're moaning about in your life, come up with what's going to make it better, rather than kind of dissecting and thinking about the problem. We spend so much time thinking about problems. In actual fact, I really think it's impossible to think and analyze your way into a solution if you've got a personal problem. It's like the analysing of something. We never really come up with answers through analysing. We come up with answers through experimenting and action. So, you know, you can come up with insights, but only an insight that creates an action. You know, everything needs to have a result in some way. So thinking about something does nothing but propagate thinking until it becomes an insight for an action. And that's the exciting thing, when insight becomes action. Good.
Absolutely. Leslie has said, yeah, solutions, not problems, is absolutely the way forward. Definitely. And just going back a little bit, Leslie Darling says she loves your goat horns. There you go.
Thank you very much. Now there's a compliment you don't get every day.
And your leopard stripes and your panther spots as well. That's
just my onesie, you know. Can you imagine? Honestly, next time I'm going to come in with a onesie on with stripes down one side, dots on the other, and goat horns. That would be brilliant.
I'm sure I've seen a film like that somewhere. Anyway, we've got 5 minutes left. Patricia has asked a question which I really don't think that we can answer on a live feed. So maybe you'll have a look at that one after the show, if that's okay, Becky.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we're pretty much all caught up. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to everybody? Now, we have literally 4 minutes, guys. So any last minute questions, if you've been hanging and you're now sitting there going, oh my God, now, do it now while Becky's talking.
Do it now. And I'm gonna share my screen with you, and I'm just gonna tell you about some things that I have been creating, because I've been a busy girl. So I'm gonna build a new website. I'm quite excited about this. I say I'm gonna build it. I am so not building it. As Kat knows, I edit my own website, and it's not safe for me to build a website. So what I decided to do is I decided to create some kind of like just really good education remote things. So words are really working for me today, aren't they? So I'm creating some remote workshops. So they're going to work pretty much like this, but small groups. So there's going to be some very, very small groups working together. And I've kept them at a really low price. So I'm just going to tell you there's 4 of them, and they're for spring, because I believe in springing into action and springing forward and anything else that is spring-like. I just think it's a really good time to start growing things and educations and stuff. So here's the first one. This is about using your intuition to know when to let go of a relationship, friendship, something that you need to move on from in your life. It's going to come across with a free meditation as well that helps you answer some of the unanswered questions from, so say for example, you broke up with someone like 2 years ago and there's still something that bugs you about that. There's still an unanswered question. Well, there's a free meditation that's a visualization that's going to come with this remote workshop. It's an hour and a half long, and I'm going to teach you really, really great skills to basically give up, let it go, and move the heck on with your life freely, wonderfully, brilliantly, and know when to let go of friendships, relationships, even family members, but not pets. So that's what we're going to be doing in that one. I can't remember the date, and have I put the date on there? Probably stupidly not, which is very bright of me, but I can tell you that, well, the dates are all on my website. If you go onto my website and have a look at the events page, there's a link directly on how to get tickets on the events page of beckywalsh.com. Okay, next one. Now, this one is about learning your archetypes. Do you remember last time that we did Becky's Life Hacks? We talked a lot about archetypes and how we are playing particular roles in our life. And I thought, you know what? You might want to take that a little bit deeper. And I know for some of you, I gave you a free meditation, and I got some emails back on that saying, brilliant, I know who my archetypes are. Now what? So I decided that I would create this so that we can do this live on a call together. I can look at what your archetypes are and I can tell you about them, and we can do that. And also you'll get that visualization meditation free with that as well, so that you can do it in your own time if you want to. Then this one, this is because this is the most hit video of mine on YouTube. How to use intuition to find lost objects. I swear to God, this one gets more hits on my YouTube channel than any of my films. So I thought, well, actually, let's do a little bit of a masterclass in this one. So I'm going to be teaching you how to use your intuition to find stuff you've lost. Now, it's not like, if it fell out of your handbag, if somebody stole it, I'm afraid I can't help you. But if you secretly somehow know where that object is, I'm going to show you how to access the part of your mind that is going to teach you where that object is. Hope you like the picture of the elephant. I was thinking people won't get that, but I thought, well, elephants never forget. So I thought it was clever. I get like that though. Now, this one is really for you budding writers out there, because I believe that you co-write a book. It isn't just something that kind of like comes out. You co-write a book. And this is about how to use your intuition to download. You can call it from your muse. You can call it from the universe, your higher consciousness. You know, we're going a little bit Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic here, because she talks about this in her book, Big Magic. So I'm going to teach you how to use your intuition to download a brilliant idea or a world-changing book. So if you really want an idea for something new and profound that has never been out there before, this is totally the workshop for you. And then last but not least, I am taking Becky's Life Hacks to the stage. So this is a stand-up transformation show. It's completely interactive, and it blends observational comedy with live intuitive insights. It's taking place in London at the King's Head Theatre on the 11th of April. Tickets are now on sale. You can book them at the King's Head Theatre website, or just by ringing the number that is written on that poster there, and you can book some tickets for that. It's going to be so much fun. I've performed this show in San Francisco. I've performed it in New York. It's much easier to perform it in the States because people are just so up for stuff. Whereas in the UK, it takes a little bit of time to warm up. So I'd be grateful if you were there, just so you can help me warm up the audience. But it's a really, really good show. So hopefully you can come along and take part in that, because it's going to be really, really good if you're up for that as well. Good. So is there any last questions, Kat? Anything that's come in whilst we've been talking?
No, I think everybody's all a bit done today. I think we're all going to go off and find our passion.
That's perfect. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. I will be doing this once a month. And so, you know, please join me next time. If you're not on my mailing list, I'm going to get to a point where I'm only going to be telling people on my mailing list about these life hacks and when they're taking place. And I'm kind of coming off social media a little bit, not very much, but I'm kind of differentiating to make sure that people on my mailing list are getting really great content so that they're, you know, happy with what they're kind of like getting and being rewarded for being part of the Becky Walsh community, because we love you and we just thank you and stuff. That sounds like it isn't heartfelt, but seriously is. So thank you ever so much for joining me this evening, and yeah, I just hope to catch you again soon. And thank you to Kat, because you're brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just to finish off, Leslie Darling has said, thank you, it's always great. It's like an inspiring chin wag down the pub. So maybe we could do that once. We could do Becky and Kat down the pub.
You know, I've heard that so many times. That's something that people have said at the end of my show. They go, "Oh, I just would love to go and have a glass of wine with you." I don't know whether or not I should kind of like charge for having glasses of wine with me. I think basically just turn up and buy me wine. That would be nice. So, you know, that'd be great. Me and Kat down the pub. Just provide wine and we'll just provide the chat. Just not too much wine, because otherwise the chat will get really boring.
Either that or it'll move on to Doctor Who, and then who knows where we'll end up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. TARDIS.
Becky, you've been amazing as usual.
Well, thank you very much. That's really, really great. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everybody. And yes, I'm going to read your comments and have a little look through everything that I didn't manage to catch. Thank you ever so much. We'll catch you next time.